Hello everyone, today we're covering Tier 2 of the Humanoid Encounters Iceberg. If you haven't seen Tier 1, then make sure to check it out. Indrid Code. Indrid Code is a human-like cryptid also known as the Smiling Man. It is often associated to the infamous Mothman. Indrid Code is believed to be a very tall man with an old suit. His eyes are very small and wide open, with a cartoonishly wide and long airy smile on his face. Some suggest that the man is missing some face pieces such as ears and the nose, while others have described him as almost looking completely normal physically. People have described his suit to be either blue or green colored. It is believed that Indrid Code could be an alien or a ghost. Indrid Code was first seen on October 16, 1966, when two boys, Martin Manov and James Yanchaitis, in New Jersey, were walking on 4th Street when they saw a surreal figure standing near a fence. As they walked closer, the figure was a tall, bald man wearing a metal green suit who was staring right at them with a huge grin. The man apparently chased them until they got away from him. The second sighting was by a man called Woodrow Derenberger. In November 1966, Woodrow claimed to have had a strange encounter on Interstate 77 near Parkersburg, West Virginia. According to Woodrow, he was driving when a UFO-like vehicle appeared and signaled him to pull over. A humanoid figure emerged from the craft and identified himself as Indrid Code. According to Woodrow, the creature had a calm demeanor and engaged in telepathic communication with him. The conversation included discussions about life on Earth, the purpose of human existence, and Code's origins. Indrid Code described himself as a cosmic traveler from a distant planetary system and indicated a peaceful intent towards humanity. He left Woodrow with a message of goodwill before disappearing. The encounter left Woodrow deeply affected and he became a prominent figure in UFO subculture. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, a legendary figure deeply rooted in Eastern European folklore, is a mysterious and enigmatic character often portrayed as a supernatural being with a penchant for both malevolence and wisdom. In Slavic mythology and folklore, she is an old witch who dwells in a hut that stands on chicken legs, surrounded by a fence made of human bones. Baba Yaga is a complex figure representing the duality of life and death, nature and magic. While tales of Baba Yaga primarily exist within the realm of folklore, there have been sporadic accounts and encounters described by individuals who claim to have had real-life humanoid experiences. Some individuals report encountering a mysterious old woman in remote forests or desolate landscapes reminiscent of the Baba Yaga archetype. These accounts describe a haggard figure with supernatural abilities capable of vanishing into thin air or transforming into various creatures. In these alleged encounters, witnesses speak of inexplicable occurrences, such as sudden changes in weather, distorted perceptions of time, and unexplainable phenomenon. Hide Behind. Hide Behind is a mythical creature from American folklore. As its name suggests, the Hide Behind is said to be able to conceal itself behind any object, making it extremely difficult to spot. When an observer attempts to look directly at it, the creature quickly hides behind an object or behind the observer and therefore cannot be seen directly. The hide behind supposedly uses this ability to stalk human prey without being observed and to attack them without warning. The hide behind is described as a large and powerful animal. Experienced lumberjacks claim to know that the hide behind looks a lot like a bear, walking upright, standing about 5 feet 10 inches to 6 feet tall. Its slender body is covered in long black fur, thick enough that its front and back are interchangeable, and its face, if it has one, is unknown. The forelegs are short, powerful, and armed with bear-like claws. The tail is like that of a French sheepdog and is curled upwards. A hide behind is so narrow that it can conceal itself behind a 10-inch tree. No matter how fast you move, the hide behind moves faster. You can whirl around to catch a glimpse of it, but it will always be out of sight behind a tree. There are extremely patient stalkers capable of fasting for 7 years before finding suitable prey. Human intestines constitute the hide behind's diet. It uses its hooked claws to disembowel unwary loggers, pouncing from its hiding place with a terrifying laugh. Sometimes the hide-behind's peal of laughter is enough to scare the prey to death before they are ripped open. The hide-behinds are said to loathe the smell of alcohol, and just one bottle of beer is a guarantee of total safety from them. The Mad Gassa of Mattoon. The Mad Gassa of Mattoon, also known as the anesthetic prowler, the phantom anesthetist, or simply the Mad Gassa, was the name given to the person or people believed to be responsible for a series of apparent gas attacks that occurred in Mattoon, Illinois during the mid-1940s. This series of events involved reports of a mysterious assailant who purportedly sprayed gas into the homes of unsuspecting victims, causing them to experience symptoms such as nausea, dizziness, and paralysis. The incident sparked a widespread fear and hysteria in the community, leading to a thorough investigation by law enforcement and captivating the attention of the public and media alike. Reports described the Gassa as being a tall, thin man dressed in dark clothing and wearing a tight-fitting cap. Another report made some weeks later describes the Gassa as being a female dressed as a man. The Gassa had also been described as carrying an agricultural tool for spraying pesticides, which he purportedly used to expel the gas. The first reported Gassa incident occurred on August 31st, 1944. Urban Rafe was awakened during the early hours of the morning by a strange odor. He felt nauseated and weak and suffered from a fit of vomiting. Suspecting that he was suffering from the domestic gas poisoning, Rafe's wife tried to check the kitchen stove to see if there was a problem with the pilot light, but found that she was partially paralyzed and unable to leave her bed. Later that night, a similar incident was also reported by a young mother living close by. She was awakened by the sound of her daughter coughing but found herself unable to leave her bed. The next day, on September 1st, there was a third reported incident. Aileen Kearney of Marshall Avenue, Mattoon, reported smelling a strong, sweet odor around 11 p.m. At first, she dismissed the smell, believing it to be from flowers outside of the window, but the odor soon became stronger and she began to lose feeling in her legs. Kearney panicked and her calls attracted her sister, Mrs. Reddy, who was in the house at the time. Mrs. Reddy also noticed the odor and determined that it was coming from the direction of the bedroom window, which was open at that time. The police were contacted, but no evidence of a prowler was found. At around 12:30 a.m., Bert Kearney, Aileen Kearney's husband, who was a local taxi driver that had been absent during the time of the attack, returned home to find an unidentified man hiding close to one of the house's windows. The man fled and Kearney was unable to catch him. Kearney's description of the prowler was of a tall man dressed in a dark clothing wearing a tight-fitting cap. The description was reported in the local media and became the common description of the Gassa throughout the Mattoon incident. After the attack, Aileen Kearney reported suffering from a burning sensation on her lips and throat, which were attributed to the effect of the gas. In the days following the Kearney attack, there were half a dozen similar attacks, though none of the purported victims were able to provide a clear description of the prowler and no clues were found at the scene of the attacks. The first specimen of physical evidence was found on the night of September 5th when Carl and Beulah Cords of North 21st Street returned home around 10 p.m. After spending a few minutes in the house, they noticed a piece of white cloth slightly larger than a man's handkerchief sitting on their porch next to the screen door. Beulah Cords picked up the cloth and smelled it. As soon as she inhaled, she became violently ill. She described the effect as being similar to an electric shock. Her face quickly began to swell, and she experienced a burning sensation in her mouth and throat and began to vomit. As with other victims, she also reported feeling weak and experiencing partial paralysis of her legs. Beulah Cords later hypothesized that the cloth has been left on the porch in order to knock out the family dog, which usually slept there, so that the prowler could gain access to the house unnoticed. In addition to the cloth, a skeleton key described as looking well used was reportedly found on the sidewalk adjacent to the porch, along with a large, almost empty tube of lipstick. In the following months, there were several more reports of Gassa attacks. Despite the intensive efforts by law enforcement to apprehend the suspects, including increased patrols and the deployment of bloodhounds, no conclusive evidence was ever found to identify or capture the Mad Gassa. Travis Walton UFO Incident. The Travis Walton UFO incident is one of the most famous and controversial alleged alien abduction cases in modern history. It occurred on November 5, 1975, in the Sitgraves National Forest near Heber, Arizona. Travis Walton, along with a group of loggers, claimed to have encountered a UFO while working in the forest. Walton's subsequent disappearance and his later account of being abducted by extraterrestrial beings garnered widespread attention and sparked intense debate about the existence of UFOs and alien life forms. The event of that fateful evening began when Travis Walton and his co-workers, including Mike Rogers, Ken Peterson, John Goulet, Steve Pierce, and Dwayne Smith, were driving home from their job in the forest. As they approached a clearing, they spotted a luminous object hovering in the sky. Walton, intrigued by the sight, exited the truck and approached the UFO against the protest of his companions. As he got closer, a beam of light emitted from the craft struck him, knocking him unconscious and sending his friends into a panic. Fearing for their safety, they fled the scene, leaving Walton behind. When the men returned to the site shortly thereafter, Walton was nowhere to be found, sparking a massive search effort involving law enforcement and volunteers. Despite extensive searches of the area, no trace of Walton was discovered, leading many to speculate about his fate. Some believed he had been the victim of foul play, while others entertained more outlandish theories involving UFO abduction. 5 days later, Walton reappeared, claiming to have been abducted by the occupants of the UFO. According to his account, he regained consciousness aboard the craft, where he encountered humanoid beings resembling typical depictions of aliens. He described undergoing medical examinations and interacting with the beings before eventually being released unharmed near Heber. His story captivated the public and garnered widespread media attention, with Walton appearing on numerous talk shows and documentaries to recount his experience. However, skepticism and controversy soon surrounded Walton's claims. Some of his fellow loggers initially doubted his story, leading to accusations of a hoax. However, all the men involved underwent polygraph tests, which indicated they were telling the truth about what they witnessed that night. Despite this, skepticism persisted, with critics questioning the reliability of polygraph tests and suggesting alternative explanations for the events. Batsquatch. Batsquatch is a mythical creature often described as a flying ape-like creature with bat-like wings. It is primarily known from sightings in the Mount St. Helens area of Washington state in the United States. Its name is derived from the words bat and Sasquatch. The creature was said to have yellow eyes, a dog-like muzzle, blue fur, sharp teeth, bird-like feet, and leathery bat-like wings that span up to 50 feet. In addition, Batsquatch is said to be 9 feet tall and has the ability to affect car engines. In April 1994, Brian Canfield was driving in Washington's Pierce County when his truck suddenly died. Canfield said a large creature landed in front of him. He said it was human-like, 9 feet tall with bat-like wings, and also sported a coat of blue fur. Ever since then, it has not been seen, and skeptics dismiss it as a hoax. A possible second sighting was reported in 2009 near Mount Shasta in California. Several hikers witnessed a large creature with leathery wings spanning over 50 feet fly out of a crevice in the mountain. At first, eyewitnesses described the creature as having a head similar to a pterodactyl. However, upon reconsideration, the witness claimed it was more akin to a flying fox bat. In June 2011, Phoenix Terraz was in his yard walking his dog. He went to pick up the dog when he saw something in the sky. He said the following: "I saw something flying in the sky. It had bat wings, blue fur, and a face similar to eyes glowing red. It was about 9 feet tall at the least. After I watched, it just flew away." On April 14, 2014, at Archbishop Auburn High School in Akron, Ohio, a second period Spanish class spotted a giant black mass zip by the window of the classroom at incredible speed. The class claimed it was about 9 feet tall with 20 to 30 foot wingspan. Momo the Monster. Momo the Monster is a legendary creature from Missouri, often described as a large, hairy, ape-like creature with a distinctively foul odor. Reports of Momo sightings began in the 1970s, with witnesses claiming encounters in the forest around Louisiana, Missouri. The creature is said to stand around 7 feet tall, with a large pumpkin-shaped head and glowing red eyes. Some accounts suggest it emits a high-pitched scream or whistle. The legend of Momo shares similarities with other cryptids such as Bigfoot and the Yeti, leading some to speculate that it could be a misidentification of known animals or simply a product of folklore and urban legends. The most well-known alleged sighting occurred in July 11, 1972, when two young boys were playing in the backyard on the rural outskirts of Louisiana, Missouri. Their older sister Doris was in the kitchen when she heard her brothers screaming. When she looked out of the window, she observed a massive, dark-haired, man-like creature holding what appeared to be a deceased dog. She described it as having a pumpkin-shaped head and large glowing orange eyes. Many alleged sightings occurred that year. Most notably was the local fire department chief and member of the city council Richard Allen Murray, who reported driving along a creek bed when he saw a massive upright creature in his vehicle's headlights. As a result of these reported encounters, a 20-person group was formed to hunt the creature, but nothing was ever found. Dark Watchers. Dark Watchers are a mysterious phenomenon reported in the Santa Lucia Mountains of California. These shadowy figures are said to stand atop ridges, often at dusk or dawn, observing travelers passing through the rugged terrain. They are typically described as tall, sometimes giant-sized, featureless humanoid, with dark silhouettes, often adorned with brimmed hats or walking sticks. They are most often reported to be seen in the hours around twilight and dawn. They are said to motionlessly watch travelers from the horizon around the Santa Lucia mountain range. According to legend, no one has seen one up close, and if someone were to approach them, they disappear. While folklore and legends surround the Dark Watchers, there is a lack of concrete evidence or scientific explanation for their existence. Some attribute sightings to optical illusions, pareidolia, which is the tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random stimuli, or atmospheric conditions. Others see them as cultural manifestations, drawing on Native American mythology or the works of Arthur Robinson Jeffers, who mentioned them in his poetry. Despite the lack of empirical evidence, reports of encounters persist, with some individuals claiming to have seen these figures while hiking or camping in the region. Green Children of Woolpit. The Green Children of Woolpit is one of medieval England's most intriguing mysteries. It begins in the 12th century during the reign of King Stephen in the village of Woolpit, located in Suffolk, England. According to legend, during the harvest season, villagers discovered two children wandering near one of the village's wolf pits. What made these children unique was their green-tinted skin, unusual clothing, and inability to speak English. The boy and girl, who were brother and sister, appeared to be disoriented and frightened. The villagers took the children to the home of St. Richard de Calne, where they cared for and offered food. However, the children refused to eat anything except for raw beans. They eventually adapted to their new surroundings and learned to eat other foods. Over time, their greenish hue faded and they began to learn English. When asked about their origins, the children claimed to come from a land called St. Martin's Land, where everything was bathed in perpetual twilight. They claimed that they were herding their father's cattle when they suddenly found themselves in a dark cage and emerged near Woolpit. The boy eventually became sick and died, while the girl thrived and eventually learned to speak English. She told her story to those who asked, but many were skeptical, believing it to be a fantastical tale. Numerous theories have proposed to explain the origins of the Green Children. Some suggested they were extraterrestrial beings or from a parallel universe. Others believed they were lost orphans from a foreign land, perhaps Flanders or even Spain, where there were legends of green-skinned people. One theory suggests they were members of the Flemish immigrant community that settled in the area during that time, and their green skin could have been the result of malnutrition or exposure to copper-rich soil. Another theory posits that the children were actually suffering from chlorosis, a condition caused by lack of sunlight which would have given their skin a greenish hue. Virginia TV Man. The Virginia TV man mystery refers to a peculiar incident that took place in August 2019 in Henrico County, Virginia. The incident gained attention when an unidentified man wearing a television set on his head was caught on surveillance cameras leaving old cathode ray tubes televisions on people's doorsteps. The TV man was described as a tall, thin man wearing a television on his head. He would walk around the neighborhoods in the dead of the night, leaving old TV sets on people's doorsteps without saying a word. Some incidents reported seeing him on their security cameras, while others said they had seen him peering into their windows. The man, often referred as the TV Santa Claus or TV man, will approach residences in the middle of the night, place an old television set on the porch, and then walk away. It is estimated that he left over 50 TVs at various houses over the course of a single night. The bizarre occurrence left homeowners puzzled and bewildered. Local authorities, although baffled by the strange behavior, did not consider it a crime as the man did not harm anyone or commit any property damage. Some speculated that the TV man was an eccentric individual engaging in random acts of kindness or merely seeking attention. Others believed it to be a prank or an elaborate art project. The incident quickly gained media attention and residents found the incident amusing, with some posting pictures of the TV man on social media. However, as quickly as the TV man had appeared, he seemed to vanish just as mysteriously. The sightings and TV deliveries abruptly stopped, leaving people with more questions than answers. To this day, the case remains unsolved and the identity of the Virginia TV man and his motive remains unknown. The Third Man Syndrome. The Third Man Syndrome is a psychological phenomenon experienced by individuals who find themselves in extreme or life-threatening situations. It is often described as a hallucination or delusion, wherein the person perceives the presence of an additional person, often a comforting or guiding figure who is not physically present. The term Third Man Syndrome was popularized by British explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton, who, during his ill-fated 1914 Antarctic expedition, reported experiencing the sensation of a third man accompanying him and his two companions during their treacherous journey. This phenomenon had also been reported by other individuals in various intense and life-threatening situations, such as mountaineering, war, or survival situations. It is believed to be a coping mechanism employed by the human mind in response to extreme stress, fear, and isolation. The presence of the third man in these situations can provide psychological comfort, guidance, and support to the individual, giving them the strength to endure and persevere. It is important to note that the third man is not a literal entity, but rather a perceptual or psychological experience.